Hello, greetings, divine love and light to you. There was one question on my Shifting into Awareness YouTube channel where somebody asked a very valid question, probably a seeker on the path of liberation, asking as to why there is one consistent happening in the play of consciousness. The play of consciousness means the dual play that we have on this earth plane, where we come and we participate and we work out our karmas and we create new karmas, and we have bindings and we try to be free, seeking freedom. That's the whole play that is about. And play by being stuck in the illusory play, that is the maya, what is called as maya. It's an illusion. So if you study the Vedantas, if you study the Upanishads, or if you study any high scriptures, even from the Bible, Genesis, or Quran, or any religion scriptures, you will see that there was a beginning of the whole play, and it all unwinded into what's happening right now. And the Vedas specifically talk about how this play winds and unwinds. So multiple times it opens up, and that's why we have the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. Brahma gives birth to the universe, Vishnu sustains it, and Shiva destroys it. That means withdraws it back. So there are no three gods sitting and doing this physically, or individually with an individual personality. It is an aspect. It is an element. These three are the elements of nature that birth, sustain, and withdraw. So it is a constant repeated cycle where the whole existence, cosmos comes into play, sustains itself for long periods, and long periods it would mean millions of years also. And these are again distributed into yugas, the four yugas. Each yuga having a chunk of thousands of or a certain amount of years. You can do your own research on that. Well, here I am talking today about the question was about, if this play of consciousness is happening repeatedly again and again, why is it that every time there is an evil that takes things away so far and makes life so miserable and so much on the verge of getting extinct, and something like self-destructive ways that we humans choose by our own manifestations through the manifestation of evil, and then again after that extreme evil there is a return of the good, and the good prevails. And every time the questioner asked, why does the good win lastly, and then everything is restored, and then again the same thing happens. So every time, why does this evil happen, and why does good come in the end? So I'm reminded much of the Bollywood movies where the whole film unwinds very beautifully, everything is nice, goody, and then suddenly there is a turning point where things starts becoming bad, and then it gets worse, and then we have a lot of new introductions of the villains and vamps and all those things, and they come and make life miserable, and whole things get so distorted, and there's so much of chaos. And then finally the end of the movie is towards working towards the bringing things back to normalcy, and the film ends with a good note where the good takes over the evil. Perhaps the hero bashes the villain, and finally everything is restored back and everything turns to normal, and then the film ends with a good note. So the question is somewhat like that: why does this happen in all the repeated cycles? I would like to specify a little bit deeper by not going exactly in the same tune of the questioner, but taking a couple of examples to tell you that there is actually no good or evil. There's actually no, because we all know this is an illusion, anyways. Illusion that is so strong, you cannot just call it illusion because it seems so real. I mean, everything is so real. But we do know that even what appears to be so real is not really real. Right? For example, this body that you see is so real, but actually it is not infinite, it is not eternal. It's very mortal, it's very limited, and it can perish. And even in this limited period, what you see here, the body, or what you see around, all this, whole thing of nature that you see, everything appears so solid and real, but it's not. It's illusory because, again, if you go deeper into science, you'll know very clearly that science proves that there is actually nothing solid. Everything is vibration. I'm not saying it, science says it, and it's very much proven. So, whatever appears very gross and whatever appears very solid to us is nothing but atoms rotating at very great speed, and each atom having its own kind of configurations. And when the atomic configuration takes place, a certain shape comes up. So every shape has a different atomic configuration. So if you go deeper and deeper into the solidity, it's actually nothing but pure energy. So this is what we call as the illusion. I'm scientifically talking about the illusion of the energy seeming, taking, manifesting into so much of grossness and reality that it appears so real and tangible. And that is what the whole play of consciousness is all about. We come from the energy, from that source of energy, consciousness, take our own forms, play our games by taking forms, and everything appears real, and we take it for real, though it's not real. And we get lost in this game. It appears so real. And we think everything is going to be so infinite. Like, for example, if we live our life, we feel that we are going to live forever actually, unless we see a dead body or something going to the cremation grounds. We will not realize, oh, there is death awaiting. There is a limitedness. So life keeps us giving hints about it, but we seem to get lost. What is this getting lost about? This is the power of Maya, the power of illusion. So when we now understand that it's not real, what we see is not real, the next step I would say is, when this is not real, there is no actual good and bad. There is only one thing, which is before, you can say before creation, just for taking this example, before creation or after the whole play is withdrawn, you can say, what is that state? That is a state of normalcy, where everything is normal, neutral. There is no good, bad, nothing. So when everything is returned back to normalcy, that normalcy is what? That normalcy is when there is no good or bad, there is no polarity, there is no duality, there is no plus or minus. There is only a zero in the center, in the central. Now, what happens is, when creation takes place, slowly it develops into this polarity, this duality. And this duality obviously has got opposites: good, bad, dark, bright or dark, light, and God, evil, man, woman, day, night. It's all divided into two: polarity. This whole play of consciousness that seems so real comes from the strong laws of duality. It has to have this both. So now what happens is, from the normalcy, you can take a pendulum, for example. If you know about a pendulum, the pendulum keeps rocking left and right. Now you can take one side as evil and the other side, opposite side, as godly, the good and the bad. So you can see the pendulum is in suspension. It's moving from left to right. So it's moving from evil and going towards good. It is not stable. It is jumping from one to the other, and it's having this constant movement of good and bad, good and bad, good and bad, the pendulum. This is what happens in the creation also. Once creation happens and polarity takes place, the good and the bad keeps dangling all the time. Now you can see the central point is a neutral point. If the pendulum doesn't shake, if it stops, what happens? It comes into rest. It is neither going towards good, so-called good, or so-called bad. It is staying neutral. And that is known as the eternal state of peace, the eternal state of what we might call it in many different names. That state is known as Shivoham, and where there is nothing happening there. It's just pure awareness, pure consciousness, no activity at all. Everything is withdrawn and gone into silence, deep silence, a blissful silence. So when the pendulum is not moving, that is that. It's in the neutral position. But once the Shrishti, the creation takes place, it slowly starts taking momentum. Somebody has to push that, and pushing that, you can say that's the creator's work. Brahma, he starts pushing. Okay, and what sustains this balance you can call as Vishnu. And when the pendulum has to stop, who stops it? You can call that as Shiva. You put a stop to it, you hold the pendulum and it stops moving, and everything comes to a stop. The whole life, cosmos comes to a stop. So now, coming to your actual question after explaining this, I'm trying to tell you that, the polarity, the central part which is there, from there, when the pendulum starts moving towards one side, we call that as evil. Now, when it is moving towards evil, let us say, slowly the pendulum is moving towards evil. And you can see evil is on the rise, evil is on the rise. So when it is moving towards the evil, you can see it is moving opposite the good. The good is here, evil is here. God is here, evil is here. So if it is moving, the pendulum is moving this side, obviously it is going far from the good and it's going more towards the evil. That is when we call too much of evil. You can call it, people call it as Kali Yuga. When in the, it's extreme evil, lack of goodness. So when it moves completely towards you can see the more farther it moves towards the evil, the more far it is going from. More nearer it is going to the evil, it is more far it is going from the good or godliness. And then it goes to one certain point where it's the extreme point, the saturation point of that evil, from where it has, by nature, by the principle of this balance of polarity, it has to return back to the source, back to this position. But what happens when it is the momentum is very fast when it's coming down? Now, see, when it's going to the evil, what is happening is the speed is very fast when the pendulum is moving. But as it goes to the extreme, you will see the speed is reducing. Like the pendulum goes like this, it slows down, it stops, and then it comes down. So what's happening when it is going at a certain speed and the speed is reducing means what? There is something that is pulling it back, the gravitation basically, or the momentum of the pendulum. When it's moving towards the extreme evil, there is something that is pulling back. That means the good is working on the evil already. And we can already see this in our cosmos, in our lives. When evil is at work, the goodness also is at work to pull you back towards the good. So when the pendulum is going to the evil maximum, there is a strong pull where finally it reaches a point, saturation point, and from there it returns back due to the pull of the goodness. So there it comes back, and when it's coming back, the evil is now diminishing and the goodness is happening, and finally it comes with full force towards the good, which you call as Satyuga. And in between are all the other yugas. You can put it in that way. This is what comes to my mind as the best example. So when it is reaching now again towards the good, there is something that is pulling it this side. This we can see when we are doing good things and good things are happening in this world. Simultaneously there is evil at work also. It doesn't allow you to evolve. It doesn't allow you to ascend. Ascension is moving towards this. So from evil you are taken a 180 degree change. Your life is transformed. Now you are moving towards godliness. But it's not easy. The journey is not easy. You can see all the pulls of the evil coming. So your speed is reducing. So this dangling in the polarity, the duality. It keeps on happening. Some days are good, some days are bad, some experiences are good, some experiences are bad. There are all the ups and downs of life. All the duality keeps playing, and this happens as long as you are rooted in duality, on the principles of duality. Means as long as you are stuck in the game of the play of consciousness, the play of illusion. So as long as you're bound by illusion, you are bound by this force, this momentum of keeping you dangling between these two, pain and pleasure, happiness and sorrow, joys and miseries. It keeps going from both these. So how do we end? This is where a seeker thinks like, I have had enough. I'm dangling between these both, lifetimes after lifetime. This is the same thing is happening. So when one gets fed up of this pendulum, because the pendulum is very joyful, it's a joyful ride. Sometimes you have the joy of being in the top of glory, and sometimes you have the bad feeling, remorseness of being in the opposite evil. So once we understand and we want to exit this play now, what happens is, that is when the seeker turns neutral, which I often talk about in my videos, is the path, the middle path, where you don't choose either of the polarities. You refuse to actually go or play the game of the duality, and that is how you start working to pull yourself away from this game, because it cannot immediately happen. You have to work towards this. And how do you work? You become aware of this pendulum, you become aware of all the games, and you become aware of how this cosmos functions and how life functions and how we are actually stuck in it, and what is the real. What appears is not real. So we understand that the neutrality, the stillness, when the pendulum finally stops, you stop the movement of the pendulum, it finally moves this, and this is the seeker who is going towards liberation. Little here, not the extremes. Now the momentum has gone slow, and it will slow reduce until you gain that neutrality. And when you gain that neutrality, you gain the stillness. So once you have the stillness, you have attained self-realization. You attain the wisdom, the realization of the self. You realize what is the self. The self is ever blissful and stillness. It is not affected by any of the duality. So there is no more duality, and this state is non-dual state, where you don't say, I don't want this, I don't want this. You cannot move them, but you become wholesome. The whole polarity dissolves into this neutrality. So the whole duality dissolves into non-duality. The two become one. So the essence of this oneness is that you are aware of the whole game itself, and that's how one attains mastery over this whole game and ejects out of the system of this pendulum. So I hope this answers your question as to why evil happens and why then. So this keeps on happening. The evil and the godliness keeps on happening all the time. So you are only seeing the start. It starts all well, and then it's going to the evil, and then suddenly in the end there is godliness. So that end is one cycle of the pendulum moving towards the evil and coming back again, which you call as the end, the beginning and the end. So let us say the cycle ends and the whole game is withdrawn. Then again another cycle begins. So you see, you keep on actually dandling. The story is very repetitive, and that is why yesterday I had made this video saying that life is boring actually. If you see and understand the whole game, it's so boring. It's so monotonous, and that's how you have no interest to actually be in this game. But unfortunately, what happens is you are in momentum. You cannot jump out just like that. You are in the momentum. It's like a roller coaster ride. If you sit in the roller coaster ride saying that you want to play the game, and then, if you get scared, if you're feeling fearful, okay, just hold on. Yeah, okay, I have to move from there. So if you're feeling enough, and if you're feeling jittery about the whole ride and you want to jump off it, you cannot exactly jump off it just like that. You are in the momentum, so you got to wait and play out that momentum. So I was telling, if you're in a roller coaster ride and you take the tickets and you want to enjoy the whole thing, and then you see that once you're up, it's so scary and you want to jump out, you cannot. Even if you yell, even if you shout, even if you request, if you pray, things are not going to stop until the momentum stops, the roller coaster ride stops. So till then you got to bear with it somehow. So that's how life is, and that's how our journey, spiritual journey also is. We are waiting for the whole thing to settle down. Until then, we are holding on tight. It's a roller coaster. I always say it's a roller coaster ride. So I hope this explains to you, and I hope this is in connection to my yesterday's video where I was saying that you feel stuck in your body. I feel stuck in my body because this is how you want to eject out of the system, but the karma, the moment of karma, keeps you in the loop. So there is nothing but to wait and attune yourself to neutrality. Because when you get neutral, you are refusing to play the game of duality, and if you are refusing to identify more with duality. So the more stronger and the more faster you understand this and you work on going neutral, the easier and faster the game begins to come to an end for you. It will continue for others. So it's a very funny situation. It keeps going on. For the people who love the rides, the roller coaster ride it's happening. When after you come out of the roller coaster ride and you say, never again I'll sit in this damn thing, it doesn't mean the roller coaster rides are going to end by itself. They are going to continue. So, but you won't sit again there because you have had enough. You have tasted it. So I think this is the best example I could give. And once again, lots of divine love and light to you. I am in this beautiful place again. I am enjoying my walk in nature. Take care, stay blessed. Lots of divine love and light to you.